Bird flu has arrived in Australia. Or actually, it has been here the whole time. But now the bad bird flu is here, except it's not in birds, it's only in a person, and that person is fine, but then there's also another bird flu that's infecting chickens at the same time, and this is the next pandemic. Or is it? Let's not count our chickens before they hatch. So the bird flu is more like a family of influenza diseases, and different variants have been popping up around the world for hundreds of years. It primarily affects, you guessed it, birds, although some strains can make it into other animals and occasionally even humans. In fact, more than 400 people have died from bird flu in the last 20 years. But the good news is, so far there is no evidence that it can spread human to human, only animal to human. So currently it seems unlikely to be the next COVID-19. That being said, it can still devastate wildlife populations and can be especially destructive if it finds its way into agricultural flocks where potentially hundreds of thousands of birds are all cooped up in close proximity. The type of bird flu that everyone is really worried about at the moment is H5N1 because it's highly infectious, quite erratic, and has developed a new strain, so authorities are still figuring out how to handle it. It's ripped through both poultry and dairy farms in the US and has even infected a polar bear. Now, Australia was the only continent with no recorded cases of H5N1. That was until May, when a young girl who recently returned home from India was diagnosed in Victoria. She has made a full recovery though, and there's no evidence of it spreading at all. But where things get confusing is that at the exact same time, totally coincidentally, Agriculture Victoria announced that the H7N3 variant had been detected in 2 chicken farms in the west of the state. Now, H7N3 is still highly pathogenic. It's a serious issue, and it's required around 400,000 chickens to be euthanased. But while that is obviously awful for the chickens and potentially financially devastating for the farmers, it's also not new. Australia has had outbreaks of H7N3 before and has a really robust quarantine procedure to make sure it doesn't spread. In fact, Dr. Joanne Sillence from the Australian Chicken Growers Council referred to H7N3 as the devil we know. H5N1 is the devil we don't. And look, the chances are we will get H5N1 eventually. I mean, it's been detected in birds that follow the migration routes directly to the north of us, as well as southern migration routes in Antarctica. Frankly, it's kind of a miracle we don't have it already. And if it does come here, I won't lie, that could be really bad news for our farmers, as well as certain at-risk species like sea lions or black swans. But there are some things working in our favour. We've had lots of warning and time to prepare. Our chicken and egg regions are way more spread out than they are in the US, which will help contain the spread, and we don't use chicken scrapings in cow feed over here, so it will be way harder for H5N1 to get into our dairy farms. None of this is good news, but at least for now, there's no reason to panic either.